Yeah. I'll start with a question, but I would like to let you know that if anyone would like to ask a question then in German, no problem, Robert will translate. It's possible to ask questions in German, and James will answer in English.
Setzt das kurz, wenn du gestattest? Also
Ja.
es ist auch möglich, die Frage in Deutsch zu stellen, wenn ihr euch damit wohler fühlt. Und dann würden wir die Frage kurz übersetzen.
Und wenn ihr eine Übersetzung wollt, dann einfach die Hand heben. Und wir schauen und dann werden wir es auf Wunsch, wenn ihr das Gefühl habt, das geht zu schnell oder ihr würdet es gerne auf Deutsch hören. Ja, einfach die Hand heben. Yeah, I offered that they, as we said before, just put up their hand. Yeah. Let us start with joy. This is how I first came to know about you. And it's not the first thing you think about when you go the Buddhist path. You hear a lot about mindfulness, meditative practice. When you look at the Four Noble Truths, it's suffering is the first noble truth. So, yeah, how does joy link in with the Buddhist path? It's the first part of the question. And the second part, what has personally induced you to work on joy, to work on this approach to joy, on these 10 steps to awakening? Yeah.
Okay. As far as joy in the Buddhist path, it's one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. Suffering is not one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. And there are a number of different facets of joy or well-being, whether it's piti in Pali for rapture or bliss, pamoja for gladness, sukha for happiness, passaddhi for calm. The Buddha talked about many different ways to access well-being. And he was called the happy one. He wasn't called the suffering one. He was called the happy one. And when I first got into practice, I was in 1974, I was looking for some answer to my own suffering. I had my own inner pain and insecurities and self-judgment. Didn't really look in the mirror and feel great. Oh, who's that in there? And so when I first heard my teacher, Joseph Goldstein, in 1974, talk about the Dharma, and he was saying it's possible to not be run by your neurotic thought patterns. That had never occurred to me before as a possibility, but the way he said it, I said, I'm going for it. And so I had, I did a lot of retreats. I was very motivated. If you have a lot of suffering in your life, it can often be the motivation to really look for an answer to that suffering. And for quite a while, I had what's called a long honeymoon period, where I just wanted to tell everybody, you just have to be mindful. You just have to be mindful. That's the answer to everything. People took their distance from me at first. After a while, I learned to soften the cell. And I was very deeply grateful and appreciative for the practice and the teachings. But then at some point, after about 10 years, I lost my joy. And I became very serious about my practice. Dead serious about my practice. And there was some kind of misunderstanding that can happen where the Buddha, he talks about suffering a lot, and I was practicing with one particular very austere Burmese master who said, "May you get off the wheel of samsara and escape from the woes of this world." Ended every Dharma talk that way on a 3-month retreat. And somehow I misconstrued the teachings, not so much here, but in here, that it wasn't okay to have my natural celebration of life, which is a big part of just my temperament. And I went through a period where I needed to sort out just what the Buddha taught. And I, as I said, lost my joy. This is not so uncommon. Anybody here ever get really serious about their practice? Just a few. You're lucky. Others. But fortunately, instead of turning my back on the Dharma, I decided to take a look and see, well, what did the Buddha say about true well-being? And there are beautiful teachings that I explored and wanted to apply, not just on the cushion, but off the cushion, as to where well-being was. And I then saw that I wasn't alone in this, and I, as you know in that book, I looked at different states, mental states, mind states, wholesome factors that the Buddha said leads to well-being, and put them in a particular sequence that made sense to me, and based on some principles of the teachings, came up with this whole approach that I call awakening joy. And when I use the word joy, I'm really talking about well-being. It's just not as catchy to say awakening well-being as awakening joy, so I use that. And the Buddha did talk about joy, but whether it's peace or contentment or happiness or delight or calm, there are many facets of well-being, and they all lead to the place of real connection and ease and to freedom. So that's what I decided to explore for myself, and then found I wanted to see about sharing them with others, and seems to have been effective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thanks very much for this open answer. joy, it seems accessible when things are going well. What about times of crisis, personal crisis? I even heard some people, are we allowed to experience joy when other people suffer on the planet? How can we establish that sort of well-being? Is it okay to establish that? Mm-hmm. Can it be maybe a sort of resource in these times? And how do we do that? It would be great if you could mention these 10 steps and first of all say about this conflict, joy in the face of somebody who has a serious illness, for example.
Yes. Well, the Buddha starts out, the first noble truth, there is suffering. And he said, I teach about suffering and the end of suffering. And the more one can come to terms with suffering and not afraid to open to reality as it is, the more one can know real happiness and peace inside. Usually we flee from suffering and want to maximize pleasure. But he says, no, life is about joy and sorrow, and to be open to it all. And in fact, one of my favorite teachings is called Transcendental Dependent Arising. I know I was looking at the Ayakema books in Metta Vihara, and she has a whole, that's a big one for her, a big teaching on this, where the Buddha says suffering, which is part of life, inevitable, can lead to faith. Not always, but given the right circumstances and the right support and the right teachings, suffering can lead to faith. Faith can lead to gladness. This is in one terminology. I think she has a slightly different terminology. Faith can lead to gladness. Gladness can lead to joy. Joy can lead to concentration, happiness, peace, and enlightenment. You think, well, how can suffering lead to faith? So first I'll ask here, how many people have been motivated by their suffering to find some meaning in life, and that deepen their motivation to get to have a spiritual practice? How many people is that possible for? Oh, I'm not alone. Yeah, look around. So that's how it works, because when things are going fine, we can get complacent and thinking, oh yes, life is treating me well, this is how it's supposed to be. But when the other side of life happens, how you deal with it deepens your compassion, deepens your inner strength and your courage to be with anything. And the Buddha said, the secret to true happiness is to be with anything and relate to it with clarity, with kindness, with compassion if it's difficult. And so it's a direct doorway, but it's not so obvious for many. And you ask the common question, is it okay for me to have joy when there's so much suffering in the world? The way I see it, it's not only okay, it's essential. We don't need more depressed, despairing people to make this a better world. Would you like for everybody around you, maybe if you're really in a bad space, but probably you don't want everybody around you to be depressed and despairing so that you don't feel bad about having joy, right? No. When we are around people who are bright and loving and happy and fearless and generating well-being, how does it affect us? Often we get calmer, we can pick up on their goodness and on their energy. And so it's not a selfish act to have well-being within yourself. The way I see it, it's a gift to everyone. We have enough suffering in the world. We need as much joy and well-being as possible. I'm just thinking, you mentioned about the climate issue. A number of years ago, when I really got into the immensity of what we're facing, I was with a friend who is one of the two co-founders of that One Earth Sangha, a man named Lou Leonard, who at the time was he managed the climate program for World Wildlife Fund. I don't know if you are familiar with World Wildlife Fund. Really great environmental organization. And he's also a deep practitioner. And I said, Lou, I'm getting it. We are in big trouble. What can I do? The only things I've been doing for a long time have been teaching the Dharma, and in the last several years, teaching about awakening joy. And I just kind of rolled my eyes. Yeah, I'm teaching about joy when there's all this suffering. And he said, James, joy might be one of the most important things we need to remember. And I said, oh, okay, I can do that. And that impacted what I wanted to share in seeing particularly that this is a time we need to get in touch with all the goodness inside, all the love inside, all the fierce compassion that we can have, but not come from despair, not come from hopelessness and helplessness, but to come from love. That is a much more magnetizing, contagious energy than we're doomed, it's hopeless, and we'll do what we can. No, get in touch with how much you love life, how much you love the planet, how much you care about it. And that is very inspiring and contagious. We need all the inspiration we can get. So I think it's a very important thing, not only for the bigger picture of this planet, but for all the people around us. The more love we have in the world, the more we are sharing that love and just awakening it. It's there in everyone, and just awakening it in those who aren't as much in touch with it.
Thank you. Are there any questions from your side to this topic, in German or English?
Don't be shy. Or be how you are, but if you feel a question...
Yeah, there is a
bubbling.
question. Andreas.
Around, and you say, how can I be sad if there is so much happiness in the world? Yeah? So,
Yeah.
just turn the question around.
How can you be sad when there's so much happiness in the world?
Yes.
Is that a question?
No, that's
A suggestion.
That's a statement. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other side is, yeah, there's lots of sadness as well. And it's not a matter of thinking, oh, now I should just go skipping through a field of daisies and everything is okay. No, there's a lot of suffering in the world. And it's important to honor your sadness. You know, it's not like all of a sudden I said, oh, then I'll just be happy now. No, I've gone through, say, around climate is just an issue that speaks to me, but, you know, they're all interrelated, whether it's inequity and racial injustice and all a host of, you know, humans being ignorant and causing suffering and harm, but also what we're facing. I've gone through periods where I've had to metabolize, process my sadness and my grief and my fear and my questioning and doubt. And it's important to honor that too. If you don't, then you're missing out on that part of being human. And it will come up sooner or later and get you. So there's a kind of healthy processing of the sadness and the grief, but not to get stuck there, and to process it wisely. Joanna Macy, who's an inspiring teacher and friend, she just taught many times at Spirit Rock. She lives right near us. She's now 93 and still going strong. She talks about opening to our, she has what's called the spiral of active hope, where you open in gratitude to life for how amazingly blessed we are to be alive on this planet. And with that more spacious perspective and heart, then we open to our grief and our sadness, and we process that. And as we process it, then we see with fresh eyes the possibility of making a difference in the world, and then we go forth and do what we feel life is moving us to do to make this a better world. So it's both sorrow and joy.
And when you make this gesture, I'm reminded of metta. I think that's a really, really important practice in order to be able to open to the suffering that's there.
Absolutely.
It's probably one of the basic things, to be able to be really welcoming to yourself, friendly to whatever shows up, even if it's things that are not so agreeable about yourself or about your emotions. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you just gave a metta class. Mm-hmm. So
week-long retreat.
A week-long retreat. So yeah, it would be great to listen to how you approach metta. What are your favorite metta practices? Mm-hmm. How do you especially approach metta when you are desperate, when you are depressed? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A small little question.
Tiny little question.
Yeah, well, first I can say we just, Jane and I led this metta retreat through Arbor seminars, which is they've been sponsoring us for 10, 12 years or so. First, it works. And as people go, and I've taught many metta retreats in the past, and when people do metta, you might think, oh, I'm on a bliss trip now. I'm just gonna love, love, love. But actually, that's not usually what happens. You get in touch with all the things that get in the way of that love, love, love as part of the process. Your self-judgment, your judgment around you, the smallness, the pettiness, all the places that you want to go away, there it is. Oh, metta? Yuck. But you hold it all with metta. You're sending it to yourself, and it starts with, this is the source of all the love that you have to give, and then you're practicing sharing it to those you care about, your benefactor, and a dear friend, and a neutral person, and then even a difficult person, and then all beings. And whenever anything comes up, like self-judgment or fears or anything that gets in the way, you hold that with love. You hold that with friendliness. You make friends with all the parts of yourself, so that they're not enemies, but just part of being human. And let's see, I'm just thinking about going a couple of ways. Whether to give you, I could give you a practice that we could do together. So do that.
Yeah.
And I'll say, but before I do that, my main practice, which I've had for many years, even before I got into Buddha Dharma, like I said, I went out in 1974 to be at this. Did I mention this? And no, maybe it was at dinner at Naropa, because I read a book called Be Here Now by Ram Dass. Anybody know that book? Yeah, so that was a book, people my age, a whole generation, and it changed my life. And Ram Dass's guru, Neem Karoli Baba, had a simple instruction. The best form to worship God is every form. Simple, not easy. And for me, how can I worship every form as God? For me, the practice was and has been ever since, to just keep looking for the good around me. Looking for the good in everyone, even when it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot there. It's there in everyone, even the confused, misguided ones. But that's my main practice as far as relational going through the world. Just keep on looking for the good, because when you do, your brain will confirm what your belief is. Confirmation bias, it's called in neuroscience. And usually we have a negative confirmation bias, where we're scanning the horizon for danger, this little almond-shaped cluster of neurons in our brain called the amygdala, saying, where's the danger, where's the danger? And that's a good thing we have up to a point, but we can get overactive amygdalas, especially under stress, and we see what's wrong. As I have a good friend, maybe some of you are familiar with Rick Hansen, who used to come to my Awakening Joy course a lot when I had speakers there, and he would say, the brain is like Teflon for positive experiences and Velcro for negative experiences. And to
Velcro is wie Klettband.
Yeah. And Teflon, you must know. Yeah, you know Teflon. And so we latch on to what's wrong, and if that is our confirmation bias, always looking for what's wrong, your brain will notice it and will often miss what's right. Like Thich Nhat Hanh has I'm pointing to Sabine because she's Thich Nhat. This is my friend Sabine and Robert, our hosts and dear friends here in Munich. This is why we're here, to spend time with them in between. And they're both students of Thich Nhat Hanh as well as insight meditation. And he has a practice oh, instead of seeing what's wrong, have your instruction see what's not wrong. Oh, last week I had a toothache. I don't have a toothache now. How wonderful that is. So instead of having it Velcro for the negative, it takes practice to change that around so it's Velcro for the positive and Teflon for the negative, not letting the little things get to you. And the more you can start practicing looking for the good, the more you will find it. If that is where your radar is out for, not to pretend that there's not dukkha in the world or meanness in the world. Those are important things to work with and skillfully address. But when you start looking for the good in people, you will find it. And not only will you find it, you actually help bring it out of them. Because if somebody is looking at you and you sense they're filled with judgment, how does that feel? You feel, oh, this is fun to be with. No. But if somebody is with you and you sense they're just seeing your goodness inside, you relax, you feel at ease, you let your natural goodness come out. So you actually have a lot of power to bring that out of people around you the more you look for it. Not to be naive, not to think, oh, I'll just go into every situation like that. You need to have healthy boundaries and take care of yourself, but to not prejudge and assume that people are mean or out to get you at all. So that's my main practice for metta. As far as...
I love it.
It's okay?
I love it very much.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I have a Buddha mirror, a mirror of the Buddha sides in me, and that's most of all Heinz, actually. It just comes to my mind. I know him since 91, and it's amazing when we talk. I just share things with him. He always makes me aware of the positive sides. And it feels great. And
good for you, Heinz.
And I had a father who was also like that. And it's also such a pleasure to mirror people, their good sides, and to discover them everywhere. At Rotkreuzplatz, Kaufhof, there is a little place inside where watches are repaired. And there's a young guy, and he keeps up his friendliness, his good humor, his open heart for everyone. And often there are long lines because it's just one guy, but nobody is bored. And it's just such a pleasure to be in such an environment, and it radiates because people in the line start talking to each other instead of just, when is it my turn? So I think this is like a lighthouse principle.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite lines I just said on the Metta retreat. There's a writer in California, Annie Lamott. She says, lighthouses don't have to run around the island looking for ships to save. They just stand there and shine.
Very nice.
And you can feel the light when somebody is like that. Yeah, you're just reminding me, in where I live, before we had the automatic fast track where you went right through a toll, there was, when it was humans that you'd give the money to, and there was this one toll taker who I tried to guess which toll, because he would change, I wanted to get into his toll booth to get my blessing, because everybody, hi, how are you? Oh. I remember, this is like 30 years later, I remember him. We remember people like that who see the good in us.
Yes,
Isn't it?
definitely, definitely. Yeah.
So I could give a quick practice that I share on.
Great.
I just shared it on the Metta retreat. This is particularly around having metta for yourself, and which is often the hardest of all. So what's
Yeah.
that?
Can we open the windows?
Yeah, it is warm.
Just a short. And one question before, is it okay with the English for you? I think you get into understanding. Wenn ich frage, okay. Weil ich wende mich dann zu ihm, ja. Dann muss
Okay.
ich irgendwie so.
It's okay?
It's
I'll
okay.
try to be as clear and simple as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For you also, is it okay, the English now?
Yeah.
And do you understand it's both acoustically?
Yeah. When I was doing a 6-week period of Brahma Vihara practice, and the first week was metta for self. And I was doing kind of okay. You're saying these phrases, may I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be peaceful, just over and over and over. And I wasn't giving myself that hard a time. It wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad. But all of a sudden, somebody came into my mind halfway through this week who I knew really loved me. I didn't know why, but I knew, well, that person really loves me. And then I thought, this would be so much easier if I could just see what they saw. And that's when I hit on this way of doing metta for self. So I invite you all to just close your eyes. This will just take a couple of minutes. And bring to mind someone who you have a really easy, loving relationship. Can be a good friend, can be a pet if nobody else comes to mind. It could be someone from your past if there's not somebody from now. Just somebody who, when you share the space, there's a sweet flow of love and ease between you. And imagine them smiling at you right now. Thank you for picking me. And as you feel that flow, just delight in that energy that you share together. And now imagine inhabiting their reality and look through their eyes and see who they see when they're with their dear friend. Why do they enjoy being with you? What qualities touch them about you? Perhaps your playfulness or your kindness or your creativity or your love. Just many, many things. Notice all of them. Just get in touch with the essence that shines through, that they feel. And as you do, just imagine how they feel about you, probably wishing the best for you. Oh, may you be happy and see who I see. And now imagine your consciousness traveling back so that it's right inside your own body, your own being, and stay connected to those beautiful qualities that your friend sees. And from the inside, wish yourself well. And you can say it either in the first person, may I, or you can say it in the second person, may you. You can use your name. May you see your goodness, James. You use your name. May you have happiness and ease in your life. And as you stay connected to all those beautiful qualities, just wish yourself well. Don't miss what your friend and other friends who care about you see. Celebrate it. You can come on back. Let me ask, how many people could see something that their friend sees? Just raise your hand. Okay, then you can't pretend anymore. You can't pretend you're not worthy of happiness and goodness and well-being. And if you couldn't, then no judgment. That just means there's more work to do to see what others see. But we're usually the last ones to see our goodness. You know? Yeah, but they don't know about this, they don't know about that. Yeah, but what about that? Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, you're missing all the good stuff, and you're looking through that filter of, oh yeah, but what forget that. They know who you are better than you do. And if you met somebody who really understood your take on the world, who appreciated your sense of humor, who enjoyed your taste, who understood your hopes and your fears, who really got you, how would you feel about meeting someone like that? Wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it? There's one person that gets every joke that goes through your head. Only one. Unfortunately, they're right inside your body. But if you met yourself from the outside, you'd be saying, where have you been all my life? What a neat human being. So just to shift that around and see who you really are. And the more you see it, then the more everybody gets those qualities in an unobstructed way. So this is a great gift to everyone. Just as the Buddha said, you could look all over the world and not see anyone more deserving of love than yourself. Yeah. See what everyone else sees.
Thanks so much for this practice. I will use it right away tomorrow in my course.
Great, absolutely. It's an awakening joy. You can take it from there too. And one thing that you might do that I highly recommend, if you thought that, well, that was pretty interesting, do it as a mirror practice. These next days, every time you're in front of the mirror, instead of, I don't know about this, go beyond that and just see who your friend sees. Go a little bit deeper and start to make friends with yourself. Do that metta mirror practice. It's a good one. It changes everything once you start more and more seeing your own goodness.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. You're looking at somebody who did not like looking in the mirror. And it wasn't when I did that practice that all of a sudden I said, wow, you're the most amazing human being. No. It was just, you're an okay guy. That was it. That was all I needed to, you're a pretty decent guy. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's only 1.5 hours of questions, and I don't want to overdo it. I still would like to know the 10 steps,
Oh.
but maybe beforehand, let us know about your experience with Europeans. Are European Buddhists different from Americans?
I think the Americans are kind of used to me, and it's like, oh, James Baraz. But when I come to Europe, it's, oh, James Baraz. Maybe that's the one. Maybe that's one difference. Every culture has its own, not to be too stereotypical, but each culture has its own personality. And it's just like different people. There are so many different ways to be beautiful in this world. So I just really appreciate the flavors. Like I was just teaching in Finland, and I teach there most every year. And in Finland, they're kind of reserved and quiet until you get to know them, and then they come out. So that's a kind of interesting little game I play. Come on out, come on. I know you're in there. And then by the, well, I know I have a lot of friends now in Finland, but still there's that. I've been coming to Germany more than any country in Europe because Arbor sponsors. I don't know if I could even characterize, but usually when you hear instructions, you actually follow them, which helps. And there's a kind of seriousness, but then such a warm heart underneath. And not even underneath. It's already there. I think of all the romantic and deeply feeling writers that have touched me, and that there's a juiciness to the heart underneath, and so that's them. British people are kind of like very reserved and proper, but then you get to know them, and it's the same beautiful Buddha underneath. Americans are kind of laid back and let's see what you got to offer. But there's also that everyone underneath, it's the same good heart.
Same mensch.
Yeah.
But I take from your words that you enjoy your stay in Europe. That you really enjoy it.
In
Germany and in Finland and
wherever I go. If you look for the good, it's easier to see, and it's there. So I love coming here every year, and it's the one. I do go through my own personal ambivalence about using a plane and flying and all, but so I try to, when I come to Europe, and I try to go to as many. It's not like I go to Germany, go back to the States, and then fly to Finland. I just kind of we're on a little travel summer tour as we do each time. But yeah, what better thing to do than to come and be with you and share the Dharma together. Yeah.
Actually, when it comes to the climate, I was impressed with an approach of another Buddhist friend of mine, Lama Lundrup, who told me that at his 60th birthday, he had his CO2 footstep calculated, because he also flies to Brazil, etc. And then he decided to finance an organization that plants trees in order to counterbalance his CO2 footsteps. And he decided he does it until his 100th birthday, not knowing whether he will really get to his 100th birthday. But I just wanted to mention this as an opportunity, because the trees that are planted now, well, we need them urgently now already, but in 20 years, even more so.
That's lovely. Yeah. So the 10 steps.
Yeah, would you be willing to tell us about the 10 steps?
Yeah.
What a privilege, yeah? But I can highly recommend the book. And it's available in German as an ebook.
German publisher.
Freude.
Translator. Raise your hand, Bernhard. Benefactor for many people.
Okay.
Also antiquarisch gibt es auch immer noch einige.
Die sind teuer. Ich habe heute geguckt. 60
Ja,
Euro.
man muss mal schauen.
Ja.
Die tauchen immer wieder auf und verschwinden wieder. Also.
Electronically? Or?
No,
E-book.
there's always used books also.
Used books.
Yeah.
But sometimes, as she says, they're very expensive, but maybe next week they're less expensive. So you might get one for 20 euros.
But it is available electronically.
Yeah.
You can download it. Yeah.
In German.
So, okay. Well, first, 3 principles that it's based on, the 3 teachings. 1, the Buddha's teaching on wise effort, where you both guard against and weaken unwholesome states and cultivate and strengthen wholesome states. Kusala are wholesome states, akusala, unwholesome states. And when we have a wholesome state, don't miss it. Don't make it Teflon, make it Velcro. And as you cultivate the wholesome state, and there are these 10 wholesome states that I will mention in a moment, keep you in suspense. There is the second principle, there's a gladness that's connected with the wholesome state. That's just part of the experience. And the Buddha, in one discourse, he says, the gladness, that gladness connected with the wholesome, I call an equipment of mind to overcome all ill will and hostility. So he says, notice the gladness, and he gives an example of being generous. He says, if you're in the middle of a generous act, think to yourself, I'm being generous now. Not check it out, I hope everybody sees what a generous guy I am. No. He's saying, notice how good it feels for generosity to move through you. And when you pay attention to it, that's one of the miracles of mindfulness. When you pay attention to a wholesome state, you increase it. So that's the second principle. And the third principle behind this awakening joy is his teaching in Majjhima Nikaya 19, where he says, whatever the practitioner frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. Whatever you frequently think about And in your brain, that's the grooves, the neural pathways that that your mind naturally habituates towards. In modern neuroscience, it's the phrase is neurons that fire together, wire together. So what I thought was, oh, cultivate a wholesome state, bring mindfulness to it so you are tuning into the gladness connected with it. And over time, in the Awakening Joy course, it's 5 months that we do 10 sessions every other week. You cultivate that over 5 months, and you are starting to frequently ponder upon looking for the good. And it seems to work. It does work. And in fact, I just, I brought there's a sheet downstairs if you want to know about the next course. It goes from the beginning of February for those online until June, and you go through the 10 sessions live on Zoom, although the hour doesn't work for people here in Germany, and then it gets recorded and then posted, both video and audio, and I send a practice letter, actually 2 practice letters for each theme to keep you on track, but it's all about practicing. And if you want information on that, might as well also say at this point, I'm doing a 6-week intro to insight meditation with basic Buddhist teachings and establishing the practice in the fall, and a 4-week Brahma Vihara online also in the fall. And I can tell you about all of that. If you go to awakeningjoy.info, that you can find that. But if you put your name on the mailing list, I'll be sure to include when I announce the next ones. So the 10 steps. Intention, that is, you have to have the intent. Everything starts with intention. That's what the Buddha said. Or as the Tibetans say, everything rests on the tip of one's motivation. And he said, once you have wise understanding, then you have the intention to cultivate the good. But having the intention not just to deepen your practice, but to have well-being at the center of your practice. This is not what many people do. I got to put myself last, and is it okay for me to feel happiness and joy? No, you put it in the center and everybody benefits. Wholesome well-being, not, oh, I get my next gadget, but to develop wholesome states. So the intention for well-being, mindfulness, seeing how mindfulness is the basic tool for a joyful life by being present for all the good, gratitude for your life, for everything around you, starting to notice all the good. The 4th is opening up to the dukkha, opening up to the difficulties as a path to joy. Not just, oh, let's feel good, but let's be able to process all the challenges. So that's the 4th. The 5th is sila, living with integrity as a foundation for inner peace, which is what the Buddha said in the Eightfold Path. The 6th is what I call the joy of letting go, of simplifying, whether it's stuff or busyness, or letting go of the stories in your mind that you believe, or the full expression of letting go, which is generosity. All of that in the letting go theme. The 7th, what we just did, is learning to love ourselves, learning to see who we really are, and celebrating our uniqueness without taking ownership of it, because it's yours and it's not yours. But learning to love ourselves is the key turning point for many people. The 8th, the more you are in touch with your own inner goodness, the more your connection with everyone naturally is easier and more joyful. So the eighth is connection with others, which can include forgiveness and metta and mudita, sympathetic joy, and different dimensions of that. The ninth is compassionate action, the full flowering of an open heart where you express your caring. And then the 10th is what I call the joy of simply being, where you're not trying to cultivate anything, you're simply resting in your natural state, your true nature, when the mind isn't obscuring with confusion all the goodness inside. And so that's the full flowering of just being and being love.
Wow. And for all of those who are overwhelmed with the richness of what you give here, it's recorded, David, is that okay? And you can access this on our website. I don't know from when on. From tomorrow. Okay. So you can re-listen to it. Man kann das nachhören. Es ist doch sehr intensiv. Zur Beruhigung. Falls ihr euch die 10 Schritte nicht gemerkt habt, in case they didn't remember the 10 steps and all of what you were saying.
You can always get the book, too.
And you can get the book, of course. Yes, yes, yes. Thanks so much for your generosity of sharing an essence of, it's like a condensed form of your teaching. And I would like to invite you for the gladness, experience the gladness of generosity. Most of you know about it. James is here spontaneously, and what is normal in a Buddhist tradition is that we give dana, that we practice generosity. And for that, there is a box or a glass, I think it's on your way down, and you can put your dana in there. And beside the glass is the mailing list. It's just, you can put, there's a pencil, and you can put your mail down if you would like to receive. Is it a newsletter or an information about?
Every now and then I put out mailings when there's another course happening. Yeah. Write clearly. Oh, that makes a difference, yeah.
It helps, definitely. Yeah. Wow, you said 3 minutes metta. Maybe you would like to share?
Any other?
Give a feedback or have a question?
You said everything starts with the intention, but if you don't have the intention, the right intention, then you cannot even start. Is that right?
Say that again.
He said that he quoted you. Everything starts with the right intention, but if you haven't got the right intention, you can't even start. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. So we can very quick exercise. Okay, we have a couple of minutes. All right, get you on the right track. Close your eyes, and just imagine that you want to have well-being in your life, but you're not quite clear how to get there, and just imagine becoming better and better at seeing the good inside you and around you. And you take it on as a bit of a practice this next few days. And continue for the next few weeks. And just imagine what it would be like if this became a valuable practice of yours to keep looking for the good 6 months from now, a year from now, where it just became more and more the way you see the world. Imagine what that would look like and feel like inside, and how it would look like or feel like to those around you. Have an image, just imagining it. This is not denying the difficult, but just not missing the good in your life, inside and around you. Imagine 6 months from now, a year from now. And if this seems at all appealing to you as a worthwhile project, see if you can get in touch with the decision to do your best to bring that about. No report card, no timetable. You just have the intention to more and more see the good in life. And that decision is to simply show up and let life support you as best it can, and trust and surrender that this heartfelt decision will manifest and guide you. And if you can put into a few words, just encapsulate this promise to yourself or this decision, just get in touch with what words you might use. Like, may I bring about more happiness in my life, or whatever words work for you. That's the important one. Notice how it feels to decide to give this to yourself. And if anything gets in the way, just the thinking mind, don't believe the thoughts. And feel how good it is to face in the direction of more well-being. For yourself and for everyone in your life. There. Now you're on your way. Okay? And I would encourage you, if you have some words that came into your mind, write them down. And write them down and maybe have them by your nightstand or in your wallet. And just keep on referring to them. Okay, so now. Yes?
So far you have been teaching us how to mirror ourselves, to bring out the goodness in order to get joy, right? How about should we mirror ourselves to bring out our weakness, or anything that we can improve?
Oh, absolutely. This is you said should we witness ourselves to see what we can improve and develop. It's all about practice. That's why we go through these 10 steps, not that you've mastered them, but that you're cultivating. That's what the Buddha said. You cultivate the wholesome and you weaken the unwholesome. And so you see different places in your life, areas that you want to be wiser, your actions, your love. There's no ceiling to it. So, of course, this is all about cultivating as much as possible. That's what the Buddha said. You cultivate the wholesome, and that is the groundwork for awakening. And until you're a fully enlightened being, there's more to do.
So also doesn't mean it's just goodness, but also the weakness and also the best, right?
Also,
Wholesome doesn't just mean the good things, but also seeing the weak things.
yeah,
What we have done wrong, in our
yeah, forgiveness is a very big part of this whole practice. And you're weakening the unwholesome states by understanding, oh, it's just confused habits of mind, and you want to work on the places where there's more growth to do. That is central to the whole process. You're weakening the unwholesome states and cultivating the wholesome.
So we are weakening the unwholesome states by forgiveness for our weaknesses. Yeah.
By forgiveness, by compassionate understanding. Mindfulness has one unique property in all of Buddhist psychology. There are 52 mental factors in some ways of seeing this mind. There are some unwholesome factors, like greed, hatred, delusion. You know those, right? And then there are some wholesome factors, love, generosity, compassion, peace, etc. And there's one unique property that mindfulness has of all of these 52. It is the one property that weakens the unwholesome and strengthens the wholesome. That's why in the Satipatthana Sutta, the discourse on mindfulness, the Buddha says, there is one direct way to overcome sorrow, lamentation, and pain and anxiety, grief, despair, and realize the highest happiness. That way is the cultivation of mindfulness. That's a pretty amazing statement. So it's working on both ends of it, and that's why mindfulness is so key to the whole process of awakening. And mindfulness itself is a kind awareness. It's a loving awareness that sees with compassion when things are difficult, sees with gratitude when they're good. But that's the essence of how mindfulness works.
I think this is very important to emphasize that mindfulness is compassionate. Mindfulness is not judging. It's often so misunderstood because of our conditioning in the world. Yeah.
No, it's not enough to
See?
just see clearly.
Yeah.
There's got to be saddha, a heartful quality to your practice. Otherwise, it can get very cool and not really connecting. So, yeah, they go together.
Well, actually, we could go on now for hours. We've warmed up to each other. But there was so much in these 2 hours. And above all, I think it's almost like a miracle getting together from different Buddhist worlds, aspects or traditions, and sharing this good intention. And it's a power you can almost sense. And this is a power that radiates into the world and that we really need. Getting together, being connected. And I'm so happy that we connected.
Meant to be, yeah.
We connected with Thich Nhat Hanh. And no separation. This is what our teacher Ayakima said. Work together along the lines, and we have such a strength to work also with the challenges and the crisis in our world.
And I want to both thank you very much for inviting me here, inviting us here, And for those who are not familiar with Buddha House, I just sat this self-retreat at Metta Vihara down by south of Munich, about an hour and a half or so.
Allgäu, Bavarian Alps.
Bavarian Alps? Yeah.
West of Munich.
West of Munich, okay. Glad, the train looked like it was going this way. Yeah. You know better than I do. Anyway, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful center, and they treat you really well, and there's beautiful, inspiring art, and it's taken care of so graciously. It was a real gift that I got to go there. So if you're not familiar, check it out. You have to go for a 2-week, at this point, a 2-week minimum stay. And it's self-retreat for people who are well-versed in practice. You don't want to have that as your first retreat after you've done a bunch and say, okay, I'm ready for this. And you can check in with the teacher. Romy is often the teacher that you can check in with. And I was with Dorothea, who's a really wonderful person, and the people who run it, Daniela and Peter. I'm with Spirit Rock, which is pretty top-notch, Forest Refuge, and I am at Insight Meditation Society. This is, for me, it was really right up there with just feeling so welcomed and had a really wonderful time there. So thank you, and for all that you're doing there.
Yeah, you're all invited to come there. And also, this is a place where we offer each night, Sangha nights, classes, open evenings and weekends. It's a place to meet like-minded people with working on good intentions and metta and all these qualities. And there is more places like that. And
so shall I do a closing metta?
Closing metta or silence, whatever you feel like. I won't point out the dana again. I think that was a good moment to do it, and you all know about it, so don't forget it on your way out. I don't want to mention anything after you've finished.
Okay.
But maybe, shall I mention that there's the possibility to sit in the room? Or is that
Oh, sure. I'm happy to stay if my hosts are okay. We can get a drive and say there's some friends I haven't seen for a while, and happy to meet anyone. So we can spend for a while.
When this official part is over, the technology is switched off, and if
hi
there is
to those.
And depending on how many people there are, we can also go into the room which is adjacent to this one. And there's a unique opportunity to get to know another really beautiful part of this Buddha House project and get in touch with Aya Kema. Her 100th birthday will be celebrated on the 26th of August in Uttenbühl. You find it on our website. This is Buddha House Projekt, Kurshaus Uttenbühl, and every one of you is invited. I don't know whether you are still there. It would be great if you could come. You and Jane and leave, Robert. And
we go to, tomorrow we go to Salzburg for some workshops, then to Amsterdam, then to Copenhagen.
Oh, okay. But maybe you could light a candle for her.
When is it?
On the 25th of August.
Sure.
No,
Am 25.
ist ihr Geburtstag.
26.
Freitag
26.
machen wir am Samstag die Feier, am 26.
Also am 26. Or just think of us.
Okay.
Send good vibes
Will do. From California by then.
from California to
Yeah.
Buddhas Project.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we go into the next room to
Yeah.
connect
It's
with
not
people.
too many, yeah.
Okay, so let's closing. Just for a moment, feel how fortunate we are that we all have been touched by the Dharma and can share an evening together. What a rare good fortune that is to hear the Dharma, as the Buddha says. This is a blessing supreme. To practice the Dharma with like-minded friends, this is a blessing supreme. And may our coming here together, all the goodness that comes through our being here together, that moves through us to everyone in our lives, may we wrap it all into one big ball of merit, as Joanna Macy says, and send it out for the benefit of all beings everywhere. May all beings have happiness in their lives. May all beings have peace in their lives. May all beings, human, non-human, all forms, be touched by goodness and awaken it and share it with others. And may our coming here together be for the benefit of all. Thank you. We're going to be back next year for another retreat at Arbor. You just got
Welcome.
Arbor Seminar. Yeah.
Welcome. Let's
Yeah.
check the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Same time next year.
Good. Okay, I'll take it by the word.
Yeah. Okay. Take good care. Bye-bye.